Advanced Solutions. Add-on desires.
Hello all and welcome to Advanced Solutions. Today let us start with the first unit in Neet biology, that is diversity in the living world. Now this unit comprises of 4 chapters. The first one is the living world, the second is the biological classification, the third is the plant kingdom and the fourth is the animal kingdom. So we'll first go with the first chapter, that is the living world. Now, when we consider the diversity in living world, it is necessary to know who are the scientists that have contributed to this. Now, first, the scientist who comes to mind is Ernst Mayr. Ernst Mayr, he is considered as the Darwin of 20th century because he has contributed a lot in discovery of various species. Also, the definition of the species that is used presently was given by Ernst Mayr. Ernst Mayr was born in 1904 in Kempten, Germany, and he was a professor at the Harvard University. So he was considered as an evolutionary biologist and faculty of art and science in the Harvard University. And in that, when he retired from there, he had got the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. Then, I already told you the present definition of species that we use, that was given by Ernst Mayr himself, and he has contributed a lot for the discovery of various species as well. And then Ernst Mayr, he was awarded with 3 Nobel Prizes, and hence he is considered as the Triple Crown of Biology. So the first was the Balzan Prize, which he has received in 1983. The second is the International Prize for Biology in 1994 and the Crawford Prize in 1999. So Ernst Mayr, he died at the age of 100 in 2004. So what you need to remember here is Ernst Mayr, called as the Darwin of 20th century. He is also called as the Triple Crown of Biology. And the present definition of species that we use was given by Ernst Mayr. These are the 3 contributions by him. So that was a bit of introduction about the scientist Ernst Mayr. Now let us move on with the first chapter in this unit, that is the living world. So what do you mean by living? When this word living comes to your mind, you always try to think that those characters that are exhibited by the living organisms and which are not present in the non-living organisms. That idea comes to our mind when we think of the word living. So what would be those characters that are possessed only by the living organisms and not by the non-living organisms? So when that comes to your mind, what characters can we give? That would be growth, reproduction, and the ability to sense the environment and respond accordingly. These will be the 3 main features first that comes to our mind. First one is the growth, reproduction, and ability to sense the environment. Now, when we move more deep into it, then what we further get is metabolism, that is exhibited by the living organisms, ability to self-replicate and ability to self-regulate. All these things comes to our mind. So the various characters exhibited by living organisms can be grouped as growth, reproduction, ability to sense their environment and respond accordingly, metabolism, self-replication, and to self-regulate. Now, we will see whether each of these characters are actually referring to the property of a living organism. First, let us move on with growth. Now, when we think of growth, 2 things come into our mind. Either it could be the increase in the mass of an individual, or it could be increase in the number of the individuals. So growth accounts for 2 things. Either it could be increase in mass or it could be increase in the number of the individuals. Both could be accounted for growth. Now, when we consider the multicellular organisms, they grow by cell division. So cell division is nothing but a process in which one cell divides into 2 or more cells. So if it is dividing into 2 cells, then it is usually called as binary fission in the case of the lower organisms. And if it is more than 2 organisms, then it is called as the multiple fission. However, the cell division that occurs in animals will be different. That is, mitosis and meiosis takes place in them. So as I was saying, multicellular organisms, they grow through cell division. Now, in the case of plants, this cell division occurs throughout their life. That means as the age of the plant increases, their height also increases. That means growth is a continuous process in the case of plants. Whereas in the case of animals, animals grow up to a certain age. Now, please, I want you to concentrate at this point. I said that in plants, cell division is a process that takes throughout their life. Hence, growth occurs throughout their life. Whereas in the case of animals, I said cell growth occurs for a certain amount of time. Now, when we consider for cell division also takes place throughout the life in the case of animals. But that is inside the body. That is, any tissue is damaged or for the production of cells like RBCs, they will deprive every 120 days. So again, there will be a need for fresh RBCs to be formed. In that case, cell division is taking place. But neither it is increasing in the number of the individual nor it is increasing the mass of the individual. Hence, that is not considered to be growth. We just call it cell division. Okay. So just get the difference between what is growth and what is cell division. Now, growth is happening, that means definitely cell division is taking place. But doesn't mean that every time cell division takes place, growth should be happening. So this is true in the case of plants. So in the plants, whenever cell division is taking place, growth is happening in the plants. That is, there is increase in the height of the plant or in the width of the plant. So growth in plants is a continuous process. Whereas in the case of animals, growth occurs to a certain period of time, wherein there will be increase in the height of the individual or in the mass of the individual. But after that particular time, only cell division takes place. There will be no further increase in height of the individual. Let us take the examples of humans itself. Humans, they grow up to the age of maximum 20 years. After 20 years, there is no growth taking place. But cell division takes place inside the body. Even if you are hurt somewhere, you can observe that the wound will heal within a few days. So that means in that process, cell division has taken place, but not the growth. So unicellular organisms also divide by cell division. And here, the division in the case of unicellular organisms can be observed in vitro. So in vitro is nothing but in the laboratory. For the unicellular organisms, since they are single celled, cannot be seen by the naked eye, the growth in these organisms have to be seen in vitro or in the laboratory. So in these organisms, for counting for the growth, we can count the number of cells under the microscope. So as the number of cells increases, that means growth is taking place here. So in majority of the plants and animals, growth and reproduction will be the mutually exclusive events. That is true for higher plants and animals. If we are taking up higher plants and animals, we can say that growth and reproduction is the exclusive feature of these organisms. So that we have seen where there were increase in the number of the individuals. Now, growth also accounts for increase in mass of an individual. So when we see the living and the non-living organisms, even the non-living organisms will be having increase in mass. So can you call it to be the growth of them? For example, when you consider mountains, boulders or sand molds, they also increase in their mass. For example, if there are much rains or something, their mass also keeps on increasing. Can you call it to be growth? You can't call it to be growth in that case, because this happens only from outside. So non-living organisms growth occurs only from the outside. That is, deposition of material is taking only from outside. So if these are mountains or something, when growth is occurring in them, the materials are getting deposited on the outside. Hence their mass is keeping on increasing. Whereas in the case of living organisms, the growth, it occurs from inside. So that is the defining property that differentiates between the living and the non-living individuals. In the living organisms, growth occurs from inside, whereas in the non-living organisms, the growth, it occurs due to deposition of the substances on the outside. So hence, if this growth, it cannot be taken as a characteristic for living organism, or you can say that it cannot be taken as a defining property for living organisms, because we have seen that both living and the non-living organisms are showing growth over here. And when you want to explain that growth is taking place in the living organism, then we have to explain by what mechanism it is being taking place and under what conditions the growth is being taking place. And the last point here is the dead organisms do not grow. So for dead organisms, growth cannot be taken as a defining property. So what can be told about growth? Firstly, growth is increase in number and increase in mass of an individual. So increase in number, when we think about multicellular organisms, grow through cell division. Then this cell division or growth is a continuous process in the case of plants, whereas it occurs only up to a certain age in the case of animals, and after that only cell division takes place for various metabolic processes inside the body. Unicellular organisms also grow, and that can be measured in the laboratory by counting the number of organisms. Then when we come for increase in mass, both living and non-living organisms show increase in mass, whereas in the non-living organisms, the growth occurs from outside, whereas in living organisms, the growth occurs from inside. Because both the non-living and the living organisms are showing growth, we cannot take a growth as a defining property in the case of living organisms. Now, next comes reproduction. So, reproduction is nothing but a property in which a large number of progeny are formed from the parent organisms. So, when this process is taking place, where two organisms are involved in the formation of a progeny, then you call it to be sexual reproduction. But if this reproduction is taking place only through single organism, then you call it to be a asexual reproduction. So let us see whether this reproduction can be told as a defining property for living individuals. So in the case of reproduction, as I said, there will be sexual reproduction wherein the progeny is formed from the parent organisms, wherein they might be having few characters which are similar to the parent and few characters which are different from the parent. This accounts for sexual reproduction. Now, organisms also reproduce through asexual reproduction, where only a single organism is involved. And in asexual reproduction, the progeny that is formed will be having similar characters to that of the parent individual. Now, some examples where asexual reproduction is seen are, firstly, fungi. So, in the case of fungi, the fungus consists of a sporangium. So, when you look into the structure of a fungi, they will be having like this. Mycelium will be present and hyphae are present, and upon that a structure is present. This structure is called as sporangium. Inside this sporangium, there are structures called as spores. Whenever the conditions are favorable, this sporangium breaks and releases these spores to outside. And whenever these spores fall onto the ground, it results in the formation of a new fungus. So this is how asexual reproduction takes place in fungus, that is through spores. Then when we go for lower organisms like yeast and hydra, they multiply through asexual reproduction by budding. So yeast, it is the unicellular fungi. So what happens in the case of yeast? a small bud will be formed from the surface like this. On the surface of the body, bud is formed like this. So this extra structure that is formed in the body of the fungus or the yeast is called as the bud. So now what happens? This bud grows continuously and then finally it detaches from the parent yeast, resulting in the formation of a new yeast. So this process is called as budding. So this is also a type of asexual reproduction wherein the progeny is formed from the single organism. Through the formation of bud, if it is taking place, the process is called as budding, which is seen in yeast and hydra. Then, in the case of flatworms, also called as planaria, there will be regeneration, or it is also a type of fragmentation. So, when you observe planaria, what happens in planaria is regeneration or fragmentation is nothing but the planaria divides its body into 3 to 4 segments. So each of these segments will result in the formation of the whole individual. So this segment again forms the total organism. This segment again forms the total organism. This segment results in the formation of a complete organism, and this segment, the last segment again results in the formation of a complete organism. So this process where a small fragment of the body is resulting in the formation of a complete organism is called as regeneration. It is a type of fragmentation. Then in the case of fungus, filamentous algae and the protonema of mosses, they again multiply by fragmentation. That is, small part of their body will be separated from the parent plant, and when it comes in contact with the soil, result in the formation of a new organism. So these are the different types of asexual reproduction. First was the fungi. It is multiplying through spores, also multiplying through fragmentation. Then the yeast and hydra, they multiply by budding, and the planaria, they are multiplying through regeneration, and various fungi, filamentous algae and the protonema of mosses, they are also multiplying through fragmentation. All these are different types of asexual reproduction. Now, when we go for unicellular organisms like we have bacteria or amoeba, in that cases, reproduction or growth is equal to reproduction, that is the increase in the number of cells. So in the case of bacteria, what happens? They will multiply through binary fission. So in the binary fission, one organism is converted into two organisms. So what is happening here? Reproduction is also taking place, but after reproduction there is increase in the number of the organisms. Hence, in the case of unicellular organisms, growth is synonymous with reproduction. So we can say that in the unicellular organisms, you cannot properly differentiate between growth and reproduction. In multicellular organisms, you can properly differentiate, but it will be difficult in the case of single-celled organisms such as bacteria. Now, if you say that whether we can call this reproduction as a defining property for living organisms, my answer would be no. Why is that so? Because there are many living organisms as well who are incapable of reproducing. For example, the mules, the sterile honeybees, and the infertile human couples. So mules are a type of animal, and sterile worker bees. In the population of honeybees, there are 3 types of bees, that is queen bee, drone and the worker bees. Out of these 3, the worker bees are sterile. Also, there are sterile human couples which are incapable of reproduction. So hence, because of all these properties, we cannot take reproduction as a defining property for living organisms.
Add-on solutions. Add-on desires.